How do you know if you've learned a lesson?
That's a good question because how do you, well, I guess the simplest thing is you don't repeat the same mistakes. That would be the simplest thing. But in order to not repeat the same mistakes, you would have to reflect on what you've done and learned. So it's a little bit of a, I'm trying to think because I want to say catch 22, but that's easy. It's a cop out. But I think it really is a catch 22. And kids, if you don't know what catch 22 is, pick the book up and read it. Damn good book about World War II pilots and the fact that a lot of times the the finish line changes
Mhm.
in life. That's probably a very, very, very oversimplified explanation of the catch 22. But uh, yeah, if you aren't analyzing, I wouldn't even say analyze. If you're not reflecting on what it is that you've done, how do you know you've learned? How do you, I mean, if you're doing the same thing and getting the same results and nothing's improving, then you're obviously not learning, are you?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. What would you say to a team member? Let's see, I'll throw it on myself. Let's say we have a nice meeting for Tribe and Purpose, and something goes wrong. Had gone wrong in the previous week, and you're asking me about it, and I just say, "Hey, it'll work next time." What would you say to me in that?
Show me, tell me how you're going to make it work next time. I wouldn't just uh, trying to think. I don't think anybody's ever been that ignorant or arrogant in don't worry about it. You know,
Yeah,
don't worry about it because that does not give me confidence. If it was screwed up and you said, "Nah, don't worry about it," well, that doesn't tell me how it's going to be fixed. So that's way off in my book.
yeah, I'd agree. I think it'll work next time. I think it's kind of like a gut reaction of want to be a little bit of an optimist, and I think the only way I would change that is it's like we'll make it work next time. Like we're going to change things so that it will work next time. I think that's the important distinction there. Is just saying it'll work next time. I'm sure there's an example out there where it's like, yeah, we'll just try it again and it'll work. But really, when you're looking at it, you have to go solve the problem. There's a reason why something didn't work, and you have to go back and solve that problem in order to guarantee that it'll work next time.
Well, if you subscribe to the theory of randomness and truly in the sense of I did it this way and it didn't work. So if life is random, then there's a chance that if I do it the exact same way, it might work. But I'm pretty sure it was Einstein who said that if you continue to do something the exact same way and expect different results, it's a sign of insanity. Uh, so if you're doing it the exact same way and you haven't done anything, nothing has changed, you're going to get the exact same results, right? I mean, yes, randomness, but I don't know about you, but I don't like to live in a random way of executing things. I want to know how we did. Did we achieve the outcome? If we didn't achieve the outcome, what do we need to change in order to get closer to the outcome and execute and get the best solution, the best answer, and then do it again. Iterate, iterate, iterate.
Yeah.
I mean, or you could reiterate, but you know, that's double speaking. So why not just iterate? Here's something very simple. If it takes one time, two times, six times, seven times, I'll tell you why seven's significant here in a second. If it takes seven times, that's pretty good. If you've tried something seven different times and you finally get it right, that's probably pretty good. Do you know why that's significant? Because the dude who invented 7 Up tried it six times, and each time he said he was naming the soda literally on how he was changing the recipe. On the sixth, after the sixth time, he gave up, threw it away.
Mhm.
Somebody bought it from him, whatever, whatever price. I don't remember what that was. And they tweaked a little bit of lime, tweaked a little bit of sugar or whatever it was. And boom, it worked. 7 Up. And bought by Coca-Cola, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago for millions and millions and millions of dollars because it took 7 times to get that recipe right.
Mhm.
And each time twist tweaked it, tried it a little bit different, a little bit different flavors, measured the results and adjusted. It's the only way you're ever going to improve.
Yeah, and I think measuring the results is like the important piece there. As I was thinking to myself, it's like, well, why would you want to, just run something back like that and not change something? And the only example I could think of that makes a lick of sense would be if you hadn't identified the problem yet. Like I think about this, like coaching rugby, this happened to me occasionally, where it's like you could tell something went wrong, but you don't know what it was. So you're like, okay, hey, players, line back up where you were. Let's run that play again. And then you're watching more closely for what went wrong. But once you identify that problem, once you recognize that there's a problem there, I'm with you 100%. You got to start making that change. And sometimes you got to learn that there was a problem the hard way. Pain is a great teacher. I think you taught me that. But I want to know, Dad, what's a
Powerful.
lesson?
Pain's a powerful teacher.
Pain
Not
is
a
a
great.
powerful teacher. What's a lesson that you've learned the hard way?
uh,
Only one.
only one. Uh, well, I'll give you a little bit more recent one, and that's I can't carry as much as I used to.
Mhm.
Uh, I used to throw. Well, here's a simple one because winter's just around the corner for us right now, and we stock up on wood pellets to help heat the house. 40-pound bag. Well, I used to throw two 40-pound bags, one over each shoulder, pretty easy. Now I have to be extra careful carrying one bag. You know, that's could be or was a painful lesson, uh, or a messy one when the bag of pellets falls off and splits and sends pellets everywhere. You gotta learn those lessons somehow, and that's probably a more recent one than some of the others.
I love that. And I'm resisting the urge to do another bad back one because I can think of a few examples that I have where I learned that one the hard way. The back's not the same as it used to be. What comes to mind for me actually is I had a board meeting last night with the Engage Foundation. We're prepping for our fall season. And we started looking back on last year and a lot of the errors that we had. And really, not as much errors as just ways to improve, identifying problems in our processes and all that kind of stuff. And the lesson that I'm learning now and implementing for this next fall season is to reapproach our planning process. I used to write our practice plans for the top level, and then it would change for the next level. And then halfway through last year, we realized that 5 and 6 year olds need their whole another group. So we have 3 groups now. And I had this plan for the 11 to 16 year olds that was getting adjusted for the 7 to 10 year olds and then getting adjusted for the 5 to 6 year olds. 5 to 6 year olds didn't learn crap last year, unfortunately. And so now it's learn that lesson, and it's like, well, how do you fix it? You approach it from the other direction. Now we're building practice plans from the youngest and on the oldest and in the middle, and we're approaching them from a clean slate rather than working with what we already had there. What I want to know is one time where you as a coach have worked to help somebody learn from their mistakes and to not just recognize that they've been making those mistakes, but then really implement onto them.
Well, the easiest way was, coaching rugby and doing film day. And really, when you think about it, that methodology can be done in life. If you and I did this before I did my TEDx talk. I recorded myself giving the talk, so then I could go back and review myself giving the talk. How did I do? How are my body languages and things like that, so that I could improve on it. And really, the way that I'd like to do it, I'm referring to doing it on myself, but the method that I use with clients and even when I was my rugby players is what did you see? Tell me what choice you made, why you made that choice. And now that you see it again, what other choices were available to you at that time? And are one of those choices that now that you're looking back in hindsight and reflecting on it, are one of those choices, would one of those choices have been better in the moment? Right. Because I never like to, and this was just a rugby technique in a business, the leadership coaching is a little bit different because it generally, when I'm coaching somebody, it's not in the moment like it would be in a rugby match.
Right.
So when I'm coaching somebody in, a client, it's always reflective on things that have happened. So it's, well, what did you see? How did you feel? What looking back on it, what are some other things that were going on? And then here's a great one from a leader standpoint when you're looking at interacting with team members is, what do you think they saw? What do you think that individual person saw in that moment? What were the options that they perceived? And as a leader, when you start to think about that and you start to be more open to understanding that there's a lot of ways to look at things, not just your way. And that individual could have seen something completely different in the exact same situation. You know, there was a movie that came out, I think it was called Crash, a while back, about 10 years ago. And it was quite literally a movie about that, where there's a crash and they told the story of each individual, how they got to that crash and what they saw and what happened in that crash and how different it is. Police deal with this all the time and auto accidents and any other kind of crime, because every one of our perspectives are different. And as a leader, when you start to be open to understand how others, particularly people on your team, see things differently, and you not really walk a mile in their shoes, but you know what, maybe you put on their glasses for a little bit and see what it looks like from their point of view, and you go, oh, I see how they could be thinking that. I see how they could perceive it that way.
Yeah, I think perspective is so important when you talk about solving problems, because we get so locked into our perspective on things. And it's important to understand, like you said, what you saw in the moment, what led you to make those kind of decisions. But then I think there's adding that other layer of what did everyone else see? What were the other influences of stuff? When I think about this in terms of communication, whether it's internal, with your team, delegating some work or whatever it is, or even in a sales process, one of the biggest things, and we've talked about this before, it goes back to communication and like the encoding and the decoding of that person's perspective. That you could say something that to you means one thing, and that they could take it a completely different direction. Or you could say a word that doesn't mean anything to you, but to the person you're speaking to, they're already tuned out because you said that word. And it's all about just recognizing those other perspectives. I think the easiest example of this, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, is people who make lists and they number out the list ahead of time. So here are 5 lessons I'm going to give you about, learning from your mistakes, Dad. You already tuned out because I said 5 lessons. And whether you realized it or not, part of your brain went, shit, that's a lot of lessons. I don't want to learn that. But if I just told you 5 lessons, you'd probably remember at least 3 of them. But because I told you the number, you're already tuned out. And, that's just a really simple example of it. But it really comes down to is just recognizing that other person's perspectives on that and recognizing what's working and what's not working. And I think that's the biggest thing when you're looking to make improvements, learn from your mistakes, and just improve in your business or in your life, is you have to have that reflection of what's working and what's not working. And if you're listening to this and you want to have some of that reflection, I can help you through that. You can go to findyourpurpose.coach/vision, and we'll go through and we'll see what's working in your business, what's not working in your business, what's working in your life, and what's not working in your life. And what are those things contributing to help to give you that outside perspective? Because sometimes we're just too close to the problem, and you're never going to solve the problem if you're too close to it. So you got to change your perspective on that. And that's what I'll do for you with our vision analysis. So go to findyourpurpose.coach/vision, schedule your call with me, and we will help you to see what's working and what's not working and get a path forward.